Uh, is Chetan Bhagat over romantic?
I think so. The writer definitely, and I am also. When you talk of romantic, meaning like I have a very rosy view on life, or I think so. But it's good for a writer. But sometimes it's too much. I think I'm too emotional a person, and it's not very good as to live with that kind of a.
Getting deviated from the practicality? Would you
Yeah,
say that?
I think so. I think too much of a dreamer, and it's okay for books, but doesn't work so well for real life.
I want to quote you from one of your speech I think you gave in the Symbiosis. It says that one thing about nurturing a spark, don't take life seriously. Life is not to be taken seriously as we are really temporary here. We are like a prepaid card with limited validity. Typical Chetan Bhagat. Do you seriously mean that? Are you going to get into an institute? Are you going to get into an institute and say that don't take life seriously?
Tomorrow I will. Tomorrow I'll go to Chogle and tell them that don't be serious, be sincere. That's the motto. I always tell them that you have to be sincere and not because when you become serious, you become stressed. And stress is never good. It never gets you anywhere and it just makes you unhappy. And there's no need for that because we are on limited time here, limited validity.
Uh, Tell me another thing. Your humor always had a dark underlining. Why?
All humor does
In
actually.
spite of Chetan Bhagat being a romanticist, being
Yeah,
very rosy, your humor always had a dark underlining.
yeah, because I think true humor does have a uh, sadness to it. There is something serious at the back. For example, we laugh at a fat person, but there is a dark side to it. That we think that if someone is fat, they are not good enough. That we should make fun of them. But you can make fun of them, and you can laugh also. So I think all humor has a dark side, and only then it carries substance. Otherwise, it just comes and goes. But you must take on something. For example, I did a column on Independence Day for the Prime Minister. So it was on how the Prime Minister is very nervous about making a speech. Now that is a funny column, but it is also got a dark issue that our Prime Minister doesn't seem to talk much, about very important things
Is that
happen.
the way the romanticist Chetan Bhagat expresses the serious Chetan Bhagat?
Yes, because that's people expect entertainment. The moment Chetan Bhagat is written, people will say kuch to mazedar hoga, and if it's not there, then people may feel a little disappointed. So I think I try to mix entertainment with the serious. Sometimes you have to be serious in this country. You can't always fool around. I think when I'm doing a column, when I'm doing a book, some portion of the book have to be serious.
If you go ahead from there, the major reader is the Indian middle class. Uh, do you think somehow this Indian middle class is getting corrupt? Somehow this Indian middle class is becoming indifferent, insensitive, and why?
Yeah, I think so. I think that issue is real. That uh, because all of us, and especially in India, where we have seen so much of poverty in the last year, and then everybody is very aspirational, which means you want to look up. So how do I get there? How do I get there? And then once you keep looking up, you forget that there's a lot of people below you who also may need a hand. And I'm not saying that people should donate away all their money and they should not buy cars and give it to poor people, because that is not going to happen and that is very impractical. But I think we should also not ignore their voice. We should not ignore what is happening in the
Why I'm
remaining.
asking this is that maybe we are just born that time, but in that era of 70s and 80s, the Indian middle class was more concerned about have-nots.
Yes. Now we are not, because I think there is a disillusionment that there is no point. We can waste our concern, but nothing's going to change for them. And let me just try and get richer, and let me try and get a better house and a better car. And I think that's wrong, because we are already seeing how it's wrong. We are seeing so many Naxalite movements, Northeast movements, Kashmir movements, all these poor people
Is
who
it
don't have.
pessimism or is it indifference and insensitivity?
I think it's become indifference and insensitivity. It was pessimism and worry earlier, but now people are so, it's like you get used to seeing beggars on the traffic signals, and first few days, you'll feel like what is happening, but after a while you just ignore it, you keep reading the paper. So it's become like that, and unfortunately, it cannot work like that because we are all linked. We all vote together. Even a poor man has the same vote as a rich man. So the kind of politicians that come, they will only be good if everybody is on the same page, if we all think about each other.
Third thing is that somehow, maybe you said it in the Three Mistakes of My Life, that this middle class is slowly getting fanatic.
Yeah.
The pre-70 or the pre-80 middle class was more liberalized. He was open. Now he's becoming
I think
fanatic.
because politicians have really abused their position. They have used the division as a tool in so many different parts of the country. You know, we have had religion distribution. In Maharashtra, they do Marathi, non-Marathi. In so many places, like in Andhra, they want 2 states now. Not my book, but they want 2 states actually. But it's very sad that it's become so much that you know, it's gone into people's minds that, you know, maybe I am good.
Don't you think it is our failure also?
It is our
We as
failure,
the
and that's
Indian
why I
middle
wrote.
class-
That's why I wrote 2 states, and that's why people like me have to be there, and other people have to be there who say, no, we are all. We don't have to be crazy and fanatical. We are all fundamentally one, and if we don't check that, this human habit that we like our own kind more. So if I'm Punjabi, I'll say, oh, Punjabi people, oh, they are my people. But that's not necessarily the best way to run the country, because that means I'll only vote for Punjabi people. But when I buy a cell phone, I don't buy from a Punjabi company. I buy from the best service provider. I choose the bank which gives me the best service. So why should I not choose a politician that gives me the best service? How does it matter which region he's from? And that's not happening. And that fanaticism is leading to bad politics, bad
the way we have
politicians.
started thinking professionally about buying things, we need
We
to start
should.
about choosing
When we,
people.
even when you do movies, you see whether I'll enjoy this movie or not. Who is acting in the movie? You don't care about ये मेरी जात का है या ये मेरे उसका. Then why you think that way in politics?
That is the most important.
Yeah, and that is leading to almost all the voting in India is on caste.
How big difference Chetan Bhagat can make in this scenario?
I don't know. I have 184,000 followers. I think there is some difference possible. I would not. I still have to. I would say I have an important voice in the country. Today, amongst the educated set, my voice is heard, and it ultimately reaches people, whether through Facebook, Twitter, newspaper, books. It reaches, but it's not enough to make a substantial difference. I would say the readership is around 1 crore.
Yeah.
It's very affluent, very elite 1 crore audience, but it's not 10 crores.
That's the decision making.
Yeah, but it's
class
not
also.
10, it's not 20 yet.
Yeah.
It can get there, and it will get there. And once it gets there, then maybe I'll have a bigger role. But right now, yeah, 1 crore is not bad. I mean, it's leading news channels will have that kind of viewership. So it's not bad, but I'm one of the voices. Others have also got to agree with me, and I have to agree with them.
Is that the reason you are the underage optimist?
That is what they asked me, you know, my column in TOI, they asked me to keep a name, and I also realized that everybody on that page is much older than me. So I said, I'm definitely underage. And the difference between my column and other columns is, I will talk about a problem, but I do give a solution. Maybe it's not super practical, maybe it's not very well thought out because it's a column, I cannot give. But I said I will not do a column in which there is some ray of hope, has to be there. So it's optimist and underage. So that's why it's there.
That is the reason. Tell me one thing, that in last maybe couple of years, writers in this country are taking some tough stands. Some radical stands and some really controversial stands.
Yes, they should, but that's what writing is. All good writing is controversial. If you see any good writing in this world, it's controversial, and controversial means it challenges what is out there. That is the classic definition of politics. Politics is not just political parties. Politics is changing values in society.
Do you believe that writers should come out of that boundaries of
Not
being
just
a
writers,
writer?
everybody should. I think writers, journalists especially, I think there used to be a time in India, journalists were really sharp pens. I mean, during the Bofor's time, the whole government was brought down by the press. And now we are finding it coming back. but it became very sensational, but not targeted, you know. And like we have these Commonwealth Games happening, we should really use this as an opportunity to punish some people, you know, and that will only happen if the journalists do not let.
How was your experience during the Three Idiots controversy of the media?
Well, it's okay. I mean, the media largely supported me. I think there is no writer in Indian history who has been able to make so much noise and get so much credit for a movie, because people did say that yes, this guy is right, and nobody cared at that time. The media didn't care that you have so many big people on the other side. They said this boy has a point, you gotta listen to it. And it was not a wasted controversy, because after that there was these copyright law changes, all these discussions, and it was great. I mean, it was
started some real important debates.
I'm telling you, no Bollywood contract for writers is going to be the same after that controversy. People are always going to refer to that. People are going to say we should not let that happen again. And if my suffering was you know, led to that change, that's a huge thing for
Did you ever imagine that movie made on your book will be the most successful movie in the history of Indian cinema?
No. Well, I never expected that book to sell so well, but you know, I had a very high hopes actually. Just leave aside the controversy, but the moment Amir Khan came on board, I knew, and I knew Raju Hirani is a great filmmaker. The story was a hit. I mean, you could not go wrong. I mean, something really bad had to happen. But whether it would do so much business, I don't think anybody. But it was really fun film, and people have seen it twice, thrice, 10 times. So I think that's why. I think everybody who watches movies has seen it.
Giving motivational speeches to students, that romanticist, is it helpful that romanticist is somewhere at the back of the mind when you're giving those motivational speeches?
There is hope that people will listen and change, and I will be able to touch their lives.
It's a huge responsibility that all those young minds sitting in front of you.
Initially I was very nervous, but now I have done, I don't know, 75 places. So now I know that what works and what doesn't work.
My last question to you. Your second last tweet, the last tweet was the link that you posted to your article that you are taking a break. The second last link said, I am friendly, I am casual, but I don't trust people easily. Whenever I have, it's backfired. Never trust anyone. That's the best advice I have got. Why is Chetan Bhagat saying that?
Because, you know, I have been always, I like that romanticist. I'm always saying be positive and do things and, you know, believe and love and all these things. But I don't want to misguide the young generation. You know, they have to be careful these days. Maybe it also depends on my mood at that time. But it is something that you should not blindly trust anyone. I think the correct thing is that you should not blindly trust anyone, because the world has changed and you cannot, I don't want youngsters to start being foolish, you know. So that's why I said that. And I think especially the kind of industries I work in, Bollywood, media, even like I'm not in politics but writing about politics, like you have to be very careful to what you're doing. You can't just trust anybody. You have to be careful on what you say. I mean, it's just something I wanted to share with my readers.
Final words to your Goan fans.
That please make the rest of the country like Goa. I think that's the best compliment I can give. Yeah.
Hope the rest of the country becomes Goa.
Yeah, I hope so. Even if we don't have the beaches, it has the same attitude, the same progressiveness.
The same harmony.
Harmony, I think that will be great. For beaches, we'll come here.
Chetan Bhagat, as a journalist and as your fan, it was really a great pleasure.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thanks
my pleasure in doing the only in-depth interview in Goa on this trip that you've caught me on.
It was our pleasure too. It was our pleasure too.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.